The story begins as a pathetic, spoiled, disgusting girl named Sakura Koji was traveling all alone in a bus at midnight. Her thoughts about ending the lives of her miserable teachers were interrupted when she noticed a Giga Chad Ultra Instinct Goku at a distance from her window. It appeared as if the weird hot guy was burning actual people alive with a blue flame. Shocked by this, the girl immediately stops the bus and runs after the unusual sight. However, to her surprise, she finds nothing at the spot when she arrives. The local police officer also thinks that Sakura had too much to drink after she was dumped by her boyfriend. The next morning, our girl Sakura is flexing on some newbies with her fire martial arts skills at the dojo. She then goes to her school where quite apparently she's everyone's crush and is popular for being a champ in all areas. Sakura then meets her best friend, Oba, who's a shy but pretty blonde. After that, they both greet their class teacher, Miss Konda. Miss Konda introduces them and then the whole class to a new transfer student named Ogami Rei. All the other girls are drooling over the new hotshot student, but Sakura has something else on her mind. After staring at him for a few minutes, Sakura realizes that he's the same guy who she saw last night making barbecue out of passersby. After the class ends, Sakura straight up goes to Ogami and tells him that she wishes to talk in private. While our girl is in full FBI mode, her idiot batchmates think that she's proposing to him. All the noisy students gather near the spot where the two talk it out, having no idea what the conversation is actually about. Meanwhile, Sakura confronts Ogami and accuses him of harming people the previous night. To prove her point, Sakura asks him to take off his glove as that would reveal his burn scars. Surprisingly, Ogami looks very nonchalant about it all. He immediately removes his glove and reveals his spotless hand, which shocks Sakura. She gets embarrassed in front of him and apologizes for her suspicions. Thankfully, Ogami doesn't make a big deal about it and leaves with a smile on his face. At this point, even Sakura starts to think that the booze really got her last night. Meanwhile, the whole school gets the impression that their favorite girl got friend-zoned, which is why Ogami left. Even Sakura seems to be enjoying the Force story, which is why she doesn't try to convince them otherwise. After that, Sakura's suspicions about Ogami remain, as she thinks he's still hiding something from her. For this reason, Sakura starts to stalk him everywhere and keeps an eye on all of his activities. But this cheap Sherlock version of Sakura came off to be very creepy, making everyone think she's obsessed with the boy. Sakura then visits the same place on an evening once again, where she thinks she saw Ogami burning people. She continuously questions herself if what she saw really happened or not. She's then approached by a cute white dog, whom she feeds regularly. As usual, Sakura gives her some food, but after eating, the dog immediately runs to someone in the distance. The person is none other than Ogami. Sakura gets surprised to see that even though the dog isn't very fond of people, she seems to be getting along with Ogami. This gives Sakura the impression that Ogami might not be as evil as she thought of him. After that, Sakura tells Ogami about the dog that her master was a homeless man who was killed by a group of goons called G Falcon. The two chat for a bit, and then leave. The scene shifts to the Prime Minister's office, who is seen talking to his assistant about Ogami's placement in a certain school. This implies that there's still a lot that Ogami is hiding. The next morning, Oba invites Ogami to spend time with her and Sakura, but he excuses saying that he's busy with work. When asked what he does, Ogami replies that he's a trash cleaner. After that, he receives a call regarding his day's work, but he attends it very secretly with a grim expression on his face. On call, Ogami is asked about what he intends to do with Sakura, to which he replies that he would eliminate her. Night approaches and Sakura goes to feed the dog, who looks unusually startled. In the distance, Sakura notices some biker boys beating up a brokey. Seeing this awakens the Wonder Woman inside Sakura, and she straight up confronts the goons, telling them that she has called the cops. Hearing this, the lowleaves start to laugh as if they own the city. This is when Sakura notices the gang's distinct tattoos and realizes that they're the G Falcon. They tell Sakura that some of their people vanished in the same spot a few nights ago. This rings a bell inside Sakura's head as she starts to connect the dots. She slowly realizes that her assumptions about Ogami were true. As the G-Falcon is talking about the people whom Sakura saw get burned alive by Ogami. Now that the girl's brain is working at turbo speed, she starts to beat up the goons with her incredible martial arts skills. However, her momentum breaks shortly as she gets tased by one of the goons. Now in control of the situation, the G-Falcon starts to beat the out of Sakura. The scene brings back memories of Vidal's fight with Aspipovich. However, the dog suddenly breaks into the scene as she tries to save Sakura. But the poor thing gets overpowered by the nasty G-Falcon, who kicks her repeatedly like a football. The dog lies helpless as her bones and organs hurt badly. Suddenly, Ogami enters the scene out of nowhere. He goes to the dog and tries to comfort it, but realizes that it is about to die. Instead of taking the dog to the hospital, Ogami does the unexpected as he twists the dog's neck to give her a quick and painless death. This stunned Sakura, who couldn't believe what she just saw. After that, Ogami turns to one of the G-Falcon guys who initiated the attack on the dog. The savage Ogami puts his hand on the goon's face and literally burns him alive within seconds. The scene frightens everyone who saw it, and there's complete silence for a few seconds. After that, Ogami turns to the rest of the G-Falcon and asks them if they would surrender or wish to have the same fate as their friend. The group then charges at Ogami with full force, after which, one by one, Ogami eliminates all the goons. Within moments, there was no trace of the G-Falcon left. Sakura watches the whole scene unfold in disbelief, but suddenly gets approached by Ogami, who says that she's next, and puts his palm on her face. After waking up the next morning, Sakura finds herself safe at home with her mother and her father. Her father, clearly relieved to see her awake, tells her how worried he was about her long absence, especially since she was unconscious when Daisuke found her at the gate. The unexpected situation had left her family deeply concerned about her well-being. Determined to find out what really happened, Sakura goes back to the field where she had seen Ogami confront members of the G-Falcon gang. To her surprise, there is no sign of ashes or any evidence of the fiery clash she remembers so clearly. It's as if the whole event was erased. Back at school, Sakura feels uneasy as she steps into her classroom and sees Ogami already there. Sakura is constantly looking over her shoulder, her mind full of worries about her safety. She can't shake the fear that the person who tried to harm her might still be a threat, especially if they think she knows their secret. After avoiding Ogami several times, Sakura finally finds the courage to confront him about the troubling events from the previous day. She is determined to uncover the truth and ensure her own safety. This drives her to seek answers from the mysterious figure who has suddenly become such a pain in her life. Meanwhile, in a busy supermarket, a young boy draws everyone's attention as he gathers a large number of toys. He excitedly claims that these toys are Neonmaru from a mysterious machine, leaving those around him both curious and confused by his weird-ass behavior. As the boy leaves the store, he receives a mission. The message addresses him as Codebreaker 310. Yuki, and orders him to eliminate a target. Sakura, still focused on finding the truth about the violent incident from the day before, manages to confront Ogami in a crowded place. She questions him about the people he killed, expressing her worries and asking if he feels any regret for what he did. Ogami's response is chillingly straightforward. He explains that he killed them because he sees them as worthless and believes they don't belong among others. Sakura urges him to think about the results of his actions, insisting that it isn't his job to deliver justice. Ogami, however, responds to Sakura's pleas with a coldness and a sense of superiority. He confidently claims that he is Batman who is beyond the reach of the law, seeing himself as someone who operates outside its limits. According to Ogami, the law cannot judge him because he exists outside its boundaries. He insists that it is his personal duty to deliver his own form of justice, something the law cannot offer. By doing so, Ogami identifies himself as a codebreaker, a person who lives in a world where society's usual rules and boundaries no longer apply. That's surely a new pronoun to add to our list. His claim of being beyond the law's framework adds to the unsettling nature of his character, leaving Sakura even more confused. Sakura warns Ogami that if he continues to kill, she will keep following him to stop any further harm. But Agami responds with an eerie laugh, and then walks toward a nearby glass building. With just a touch, he breaks the glass into countless pieces. In a final threatening warning, he tells Sakura that if she ever speaks about him to anyone, he will kill her first, and anyone she tells, no matter where or when. He makes it clear that she can't stop him. The encounter leaves Sakura in shock and fear. Sakura, deeply shaken by her meeting with Ogami, goes home and lies in bed, unable to stop thinking about what he said. His chilling words and his unstoppable powers weigh heavily on her mind. Meanwhile, Ogami is walking on a bridge when he gets a call asking if he has eliminated Sakura. Ogami's answer is unexpected. He describes Sakura as a rare breed and says she won't burn, even by his own fire. Because of this, he has decided not to kill her again, leaving the situation wrapped in uncertainty. One morning, as Sakura gets ready for school, she is surprised to find Ogami patiently waiting at her door. His unexpected arrival raises questions about his intentions. Looking unbothered about the situation, Ogami is prepared to walk with her to school. When Sakura arrives, she is once again greeted by a locker filled with love letters from her loser classmates. Andrew Tate would surely mind the behavior of these simps. But today, there's a new twist. Sakura tells Aba that she has chosen to walk to school with Ogami every day. This news brings an interesting change to Sakura's daily routine and sparks the curiosity of her classmates. Oba is genuinely happy for Sakura, thinking she might have finally found love. Oba offers her best wishes, encouraging Sakura to treasure her new closeness with Ogami and asking Ogami to take good care of her. The dumbasses are still unaware that Sakura said this because she wants to keep an eye on Ogami at all times. Suddenly, a fellow student tries to attack Ogami from behind in jealousy for stealing Sakura. Without hesitation, Sakura steps in front of Ogami, signaling that anyone who wants to harm him will have to go through her first. The only reason Sakura does this is because she's certain that the kid would get fried if he annoys Ogami even a bit more. As they walk together, they run into Fujiwara, one of Sakura's junior students, who seems very excited to see her. Ogami, however, notices something in Fujiwara's eyes, and almost instinctively places his hand on her head, hinting at a deeper connection or shared history that hasn't yet been revealed. Later, Ogami waits on the school rooftop and gets a call instructing him to eliminate certain people. After ending the call, he sees Sakura approaching. In a surprising and gentle gesture, Ogami offers her a puppy. It is revealed that the pup is of the same dog that he had to put down while facing G. Falcon. Sakura happily decides to take it under her care. After that, Sakura decides to follow Ogami to the location where he needs to find his targets. But as they near the scene, Sakura feels a rising sense of unease. She notices police officers present, mingling with the very people they are supposed to catch. Shocked and dismayed, Sakura watches as the police unexpectedly collaborate with the criminals they were meant to eliminate. Without hesitation, Agami swiftly takes action, burning all the criminals and leaving no one alive. Witnessing this ruthless act, Sakura confronts Agami, expressing her shock and disagreement with his methods. She insists that he cannot just kill people at will, and that there must be a more humane way to handle the situation. In response, Agami defends his actions, telling Sakura that her words can't reach or change these people, and that sometimes the only way to deal with them is by using his tough methods. The differences in morals and ethics between Sakura and Ogami are very clear at this point. Sakura tries to understand Ogami, hugging him and saying she gets why he fights. But Ogami, firm in his beliefs, pushes her away and strikes her in the stomach, making her faint. Agami then chases after the corrupt police officer who was helping the people he took down earlier. They get into a car chase, and Agami tries to use his powers to burn the officer's car. However, the situation takes an unexpected turn when a helicopter suddenly appears, and another codebreaker, Toki, steps out. Toki makes the officer's car explode, while Ogami narrowly escapes by jumping out of the vehicle. After that, Toki greets Ogami, and it looks like they both know each other well. In the highest decision-making group, known as Eden, people with powers beyond normal human abilities are given the responsibility to use their unique skills to eliminate the evil forces threatening Earth. Among them is Agami, a notable codebreaker identified as Code 6. Even though he is the newest member of this cheeky group, Agami has proven his worth by successfully completing every mission given to him. He has shown not only his skill, but also significant growth, earning his place as an equal among the top 5 code. Now, in a moment filled with anticipation and mystery, one of the respected judges steps forward to reveal why Ogami has been called. It becomes clear that they have a special mission in mind for him, one that requires all of his extraordinary abilities. The target of this secret mission is Tabata Shituro, a well-known politician. His image instantly appears on Ogami's phone, highlighting the seriousness of the task. However, what catches Ogami's attention is the mysterious link between this judge. Explain that Agami's job is much more than just getting rid of a political rival. It involves navigating the complicated web of relationships and alliances in the secretive world. Figuring out any possible link between Tabata Shigeru and Hitomi is a key part of this complex task. In a bold move, Agami decides to tap into his psycho side again. He flies towards the judges, unleashing a powerful blaze of fire that surrounds them. This act, which made the judges shit their pants, is a strong message that he will not be treated as just a tool. He demands the right to choose whether he will accept the mission or not. Meanwhile, Sakura finds herself entangled in her own complicated situation. She is often seen hanging around the front gate, which worries her parents. When they ask her about it, she first says that she needs to sleep outside as part of her new mountaineering club training. But she soon realizes her parents know when she is, especially when it's about someone else. As she gets ready to leave the house, Sakura is surprised to see Toki, a young man with shiny golden hair standing where Ogami usually waits for her. He greets her with a warm but creepy good morning. Still puzzled, she asks who he is, curious about this unexpected meeting. He then tells her he's there to pick her up instead of Ogami. During their journey, he shares some troubling news with Sakura. He explains that Ogami made some big mistakes the day before, which is why he couldn't come. Toki, who introduces himself as Code 4, mentions that Ogami, who is Code 6, needs to be watched closely. Sakura's curiosity about Ogami's location gets the best of her, so she asks Toki where he might be right now. Toki replies, saying Ogami probably just got a harsh scolding from his superiors and might be about to cry. As soon as Sakura hears this, her eyes fill with tears and she starts crying for Ogami. Toki then tries to comfort Sakura, promising to give her all the information she needs about him. Sakura makes it clear that what she really wants from Ogami is for him to stop his job of taking people out. While still with Sakura, Toki says he has something important to share that involves both Ogami and her. But before he can say more, Ogami suddenly appears and kicks Toki. Quick and agile, Toki dodges the kick easily. Ogami stands in front of Sakura, telling her not to listen to what he thinks are Toki's empty words. He then turns to Toki, asking why he has shown up unexpectedly. Toki tells Ogami that the higher-ups have concerns about the job assigned to him for tonight. Because of this, Toki has been sent to help him. However, Toki's main purpose is to deliver a clear message that Ogami should not take part in the mission today. Ogami responds by telling Toki to focus on his own health rather than worrying about him. The situation heats up, and Toki's frustration comes out. The two psychopaths end up in a fierce brawl. Sakura steps in and tries to stop them. As she stands in between, she notices that Toki's eyes look a lot like Fujiwara's, which sparks her doubts about their possible connection. After Toki leaves, Sakura and Ogami continue on their way to school. Sakura's curiosity takes over, and she starts asking Ogami about Toki. Ogami warns her that Toki isn't trustworthy and advises her not to believe everything he says. In class, while the teacher is teaching, Sakura's gaze drifts to the window, where she sees Toki. She quickly tells the teacher she feels sick and asks to go to the nurse. Instead of going to the nurse's office, she decides to question Toki about why he is at her school. Toki says he is just there to explore the school, but before they can discuss more, Ogami steps in, accusing Toki of snooping around. Their chat gets interrupted when a teacher sees Toki in a different school uniform and asks about his presence. Toki explains that he is a new student on a school tour, and the teacher takes him to the classroom to introduce him to everyone. including Sakura and Ogami. At lunchtime, Sakura uses the chance to ask Toki how she can stop Ogami from carrying out his dangerous tasks. Toki explains that codebreakers have clear goals and either deal with or eliminate threats based on orders from their superiors. Later, after school, Sakura quietly follows Ogami to ask about the link between Fujiwara and Toki. Ogami answers in a vague way, saying that codebreakers basically don't exist, and if Toki had a family before, their memories of the codebreaker would be wiped out. As night comes, they arrive at their planned spot for the operation. Toki uses his magnetic powers to open a door and turn off the alarm system. Sakura is amazed by Toki's special ability. However, their mission takes an unexpected twist when a group of people with special powers, different from codebreakers, shows up and starts a fight with Toki and Ogami. In the middle of the intense battle, the opponent's energy packs, which are essential for powering their special abilities, run out in just a few minutes. Facing this problem, they quickly retreat, blaming the failure on a shit experiment. Toki explains that the government has been running a series of experiments aimed at creating people with superhuman abilities similar to the codebreakers. The person in charge of these experiments, Mr. Tabata, a high-ranking government official, happens to be their enemy today. Even though Mr. Tabata's assistant alerts him that the codebreakers are in the building, he stays firm, refusing to let them interfere with his ongoing experiment. As Ogami, Toki, and Sakura head toward their target, Toki reveals something shocking to Sakura. He tells her that their work is also connected to the government, specifically to the Prime Minister. Sakura is stunned by this news, as the idea of the Prime Minister being involved in their situation amazes her. When Sakura finally unlocks the door to the experiment room, she is stunned by a heartbreaking scene. The room is crowded with many children who seem to have been taken off the streets, their lives disrupted as they become subjects for these cruel experiments. As she moves further into the room, the person behind these actions, Tabata, makes his appearance. Toki immediately speaks to him, reminding Tabata of Eden's previous warnings about trafficking human organs. Yet Tabata remains unfazed and brushes off their concerns, saying it's not their problem. Adding to the tension, the two people who had previously confronted the codebreakers at the building's entrance now arrive on the scene. They argue that their actions are meant to help people, insisting that children with limited special powers are practically useless, that using their organs for other purposes is the most efficient way to utilize their potential. This controversial statement sparks a conflict between the groups. To back up their position, Tabata's guards have recharged their energy packs. One of them can control water, while the other can turn things into solid stone. As the battle heats up, the room turns into a wild scene with different skills in full-on display. Amidst the chaos, Toki decides to step away from his opponent, hoping to avoid the fight, but he runs into the enemies again at the front and firmly states that they won't get away. Sakura quietly tells Toki the important detail that the source of the enemy's power is in a bag one of the men carrying. She suggests that if they can take or destroy this bag, they might gain an advantage in the battle. Following Sakura's advice, Toki grabs the bag and is shocked to find that it holds young children who are the source of the enemy's power. In a shocking turn of events, they face a tough moral choice and need to act quickly. Following the children's wishes, they decide to eliminate the two enemies. With the two guards out of the way, only Mr. Tabata is left. As he tries to escape in desperation, Toki catches him and insists that Ogami should finish the job. Ogami, ready to use his fiery powers, is just about to turn Mr. Tabata into barbecue. But right at that crucial moment, Mr. Tabata's daughter, who is in a wheelchair, unexpectedly arrives. She asks her father, who is held against the wall, about the identities of Sakura, Toki, and Ogami, the intruders, according to her. In his moment of desperation, Mr. Tabata reveals that all his actions were meant to find the right organ for his daughter. He explains that the hospital couldn't provide the needed transplant quickly enough for his daughter, so he acted urgently to save her life. As Sakura begs Ogami to spare Mr. Tabata, the man starts to understand how serious his actions were. Feeling sorry for what he did, he asks Sakura to look after his daughter while he accepts his fiery end, letting Ogami burn him. At the same time, Mr. Tsuno, Tabata's secretary, thinks he has barely avoided death and is making his way a few blocks from the building. However, Toki quickly catches up with him, determined to find out who was backing Tabata's evil project. Facing the pressure to reveal this crucial information, Mr. Itsuno takes a tragic action. He raises a gun to his own head and pulls the trigger, ending his life before he can give away any secrets. In the next scene, the news on the TV reports that Mr. Tabata has passed away, and the cause of his death is still unknown. There are various rumors and theories going around, with some suggesting it was due to a tragic incident involving smoking in bed. Meanwhile, Toki is in the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister looks pleased when he sees Toki, and they exchange greetings. However, Toki acts cold as ice and hints at a possible link between the Prime Minister and the research facilities. It is then revealed that the Prime Minister is actually Toki's father, but Toki seems to hate his old man for turning him into a nobody codebreaker. Meanwhile, Ogami and Sakura are walking down the street, with Sakura hooked on a newspaper article about Mr. Tabata's mysterious death. A stranger suddenly pulls up next to them, asking for some privacy, signaling an important conversation that could affect their lives. The woman, who was disguised as a man, steps aside. She then expresses Eden's concerns to Ogami about his choice to take Sakura to Mr. Tabata's house during the mission that resulted in his death. According to the woman, this not only put Sakura in serious danger, but also raised questions about her value and potential in Eden's eyes. She revealed that Eden's new directive was to protect Sakura at all costs, as she was seen as the rare breed, and possibly a crucial figure in their future plans. Later, on the school grounds, as they walked to class, Sakura suggested to Ogami that he should try making more friends to enjoy his forced school life. Agami's reaction stood out. He made it clear that he was not interested in taking part in activities or forming relationships that didn't help him achieve his goals. He stressed that the codebreakers were not his friends, but colleagues with similar interests, showing how seriously he takes his role and mission. When Ogami arrives at school, his classmates, led by Aoba as the class president, organize a welcome party for him. During the event, the students propose various activities they want to do with Ogami throughout the year, offering friendship. Ogami, however, obviously has zero interest in all of this lame shit. Later that evening, Ogami goes through messages from classmates who want to befriend him. To Sakura's surprise, he burns the messages, explaining that he doesn't like leaving physical traces and prefers to memorize what they said. He also mentions that he isn't ready for any friendship right now. After that, we see Toki heading home when he suddenly suffers a severe heart issue that threatens his life. Meanwhile, Yukihina and Hitomi, both former codebreakers known as Code 0 and Code 1, have turned against their old allies. They are gathering their own forces, enlisting agents who have gone missing under the Prime Minister's command. The developments hint a new and complicated conflict brewing in the world of codebreakers, one that could have serious consequences. As night falls, Sakura and Ogami find themselves on the school rooftop, locked in a tense standoff. Hitomi's forces attack the school and advance toward the gate where Ogami and Sakura stand. These attackers, controlled by Hitomi, are weird, reanimated corpses of those he has killed. While Ogami fights some of these undead agents, Sakura expresses her concern, disapproving of how he handles them. Ogami responds that they are already dead, and that only Hitomi has the power to bring them back to life. The situation becomes dire as Ogami starts to weaken while fighting against the relentless attack of Hitomi's undead army. Just in time, Miss Konda steps in, using her guns to take down some of the reanimated agents, giving Ogami a brief moment to recover. This break allows him to chase after a group of these agents who have entered the school, heading toward their classroom. After a long struggle, Yuki and the other codebreakers arrive to support Ogami in the ongoing battle. The fight grows more intense as they join forces to face the looming threat of Hitomi and his undead army. After successfully defeating Hitomi's reanimated agents, they carefully move a struggling Ogami to one of the classrooms. After that, Miss Konda takes a moment to explain that Ogami has been using his special abilities a lot lately, which has made him weak. She reassures Sakura that this is common for people with special abilities, and assures her that Ogami will fully recover within a day, bringing relief to her. Curious about Miss Konda's heroics, Sakura speaks to Hikaya and Yuki. She expresses her surprise at finding out that Miss Konda is a codebreaker too. Miss Konda then clarifies that she isn't a codebreaker, but an agent for Eden who supports codebreakers. Heike adds more context, explaining that Ogami is the lowest-ranked codebreaker, known as Code Number 6, which is why he was given a support staff member. This reveals the hierarchy and support system in the world of codebreakers, highlighting duties of those involved. Sakura can't help but laugh when she hears that Ogami has the lowest rank among the codebreakers. She couldn't believe that the wild psychopath who makes human barbecue for fun is only a low rank. Her amusement is very clear. Heike continues with the introductions, offering more details about the codebreakers' ranks and powers. He explains that Yuki is Code 3 and has the remarkable ability to control sound, making it both a flexible and powerful skill. Toki is known as Code 4, hinting that he too has unique talents that will surely become important as things progress. KK then announces that he is Codebreaker 2. Besides his special abilities, he also acts as a judge for the other codebreakers, showing that he has a significant role in the group's operations. Sakura, now curious, asks about Code 5 and Code 1, wondering if they are still around. Heike replies that she has already met Code 5, and Sakura suddenly remembers the mysterious woman on the bike. She's about to ask about Code 1's identity when Miss Konda steps in, suggesting they move to keep Ogami safe. The discussion about the missing codebreakers is put on hold as they focus on Ogami's safety. Concerned for his well-being, Sakura suggests taking Ogami to her home for protection. However, Miss Konda voices her concerns about the risks of such a move. She knows well the dangers of their situation, where threats can arise unexpectedly from all sides. In response, Sakura shows her determination. She firmly reminds Miss Konda that she knows her home well, with a subtle flex about her influential father and his tight security. Sakura's confidence gives them the assurance they need to move forward with their plan. Together, they decide to take Ogami to Sakura's home, where he can receive the care and protection he needs to recover. After reaching Sakura's home, Miss Konda shares an intriguing secret with the group. She reveals that she is the daughter of the leader of the Kizakura Gumi Group, a powerful Yakuza organization in Japan. Sakura's parents then ask about Ogami and the others. Without revealing any of the codebreak bullshit, Miss Konda explains that Ogami had fought to protect her and the other students at school that day. Sakura's parents offer Ogami and his friends a stay in the guest room. Later that evening, Heike talks with the somewhat downcast Toki. Heike provides important information, explaining that the group that attacked them earlier had split into two factions, with one targeting Ogami and the other going after Miss Konda. Kiichi suspects that this split might have been planned by Hitomi, suggesting that Hitomi's ultimate goal might be to defeat Ogami. After that, Code 5, sent by Eden, arrives at Sakura's house to help them face Hitomi's expected attack. As night falls, Hitomi begins his assault. When asked about his motives, Hitomi makes it clear that his fight is not against the codebreakers, but against Eden, revealing a significant truth about his real objectives. While the codebreakers are busy fighting Hitomi, he secretly sends Code 1 to kidnap the Prime Minister, and then dips once the job is done, successfully fooling everyone. Hitomi's intentions start to prove to be even more messed up after this act. Our loser codebreaker group is overwhelmed with guilt and frustration, blaming themselves for falling into the trap Hitomi set. Heike admits that Hitomi executed his plan flawlessly, leaving them deceived and clueless. Toki, however, takes an unexpected position, suggesting they shouldn't even try to save the Prime Minister. This alarms Code 5, who strongly opposes Toki's idea, reminding everyone that the Prime Minister is also his father. Despite this, Toki stands firm in his decision and refuses to be part of any rescue plan, leaving the group in disagreement. The group's unity begins to crumble, and a sense of despair grows within them, as they all aren't able to stay on the same page. Meanwhile, Yuki's excessive use of his powers has led to an unexpected result, as he has turned into a freaking cat, a side effect of pushing his abilities too far. After the face-off with Hitomi that left several of Sakura's security members hurt, Sakura's father thanks the group for their brave efforts in protecting the clan from Hitomi's attack. Keiichi then takes a moment to explain who Hitomi is and his important role among the Codebreakers. He shares that Hitomi is Codebreaker 1 and that his boss was the Prime Minister himself. However, 3 years ago, Hitomi mysteriously vanished, sparking many rumors. Some thought he had died, while others guessed he had gone on a journey. To everyone's surprise, Hitomi has recently returned, causing chaos wherever he goes. Keika adds that during his time with the Codebreakers, Hitomi was the strongest among them. The reason behind his kidnapping of the Prime Minister stems from a deep desire for revenge, which drove him to such limits. Code 5 mentions that Hitomi's goals go beyond just killing the Prime Minister, suggesting that he might have a secret plan. The discovery of Hitomi's change from a former leader to a strong enemy leaves the group confused and upset. They struggle with understanding what could have happened to make Hitomi turn against them and seek revenge on the Prime Minister. Meanwhile, Sakura's parents have a heartfelt conversation about Sakura's future and the unknowns that lie ahead. Without their knowledge, Agami listens in, eager to learn about their worries and dreams for Sakura. After they finish talking and leave the room, Agami takes the chance to look through an old photo album of Sakura. As he flips through it, he finds pictures of Sakura as a baby. It suddenly hits him that Sakura is adopted. Wanting to be sure, he gently asks Sakura about her adoption, and she openly confirms it. This new information deepens Ogami's understanding of Sakura's past. And our Burna boy finally starts to get a hint of a soft spot for her. Sakura's father later pulls Ogami aside to tell the story of how they found Sakura, who was a newborn covered in blood, abandoned at their doorstep. This eerie and unsettling event has deeply influenced Sakura's life, leading to her strong fear of death and her need to protect the living. Sakura's father expresses his deep worry and care for her. He admits that they knew this truth would eventually come out, and as parents, they are dedicated to supporting her. He asks Agami to help keep Sakura safe, highlighting how much they love and are devoted to her. The scene shifts to Sakura, who feels crushed when she sees the suffering of the security clan members receiving medical care. Agami, solid as always, comforts her, telling her not to focus on the negative. He takes responsibility for what has happened, and says that if anyone should be blamed, it should be him. This is literally the first time this robot showed any feelings. Agami encourages Sakura to stay strong despite recent events, reminding her that losing hope would let down those who believe in her. The clan members fully support Agami's view, vowing to stand by her and protect her if Hitomi returns. After that, the Codebreakers think about how Hitomi went from being a friend to an enemy. They struggle to understand his reasons. To solve the issue, they decide to split up and search for either the Prime Minister or Hitomi, hoping to uncover the truth. At the same time, Miss Konda confronts the executive members in the school's language lab. She is upset and confused about not being told that Sakura is a rare breed. The executives explain that they didn't trust her because of her past connection with Hitomi. However, Miss Konda strongly denies any loyalty to Hitomi and expresses her frustration, determined to prove her commitment to the Codebreakers and their mission. Meanwhile, Code 5, also known as Oji, talks with Heike. During their conversation, Oji starts to doubt Heike, thinking he might have helped Hitomi with his plans. It turns out that she's right about him, and Heike is actually a bloody traitor siding with Hitomi. Sensing that Oji is about to reveal his intentions about Hitomi, Heike becomes cautious. Suddenly, Heike surprises Oji by attacking her, catching her completely off guard. What Heike doesn't know is that Yuki, who is turned into a cat, is watching everything silently. After the attack, Heike approaches Sakura and tells her that Ogami has asked to see her. She goes with him, but only a few moments later she realizes that Heike has brought her to Hitomi, and Heike then reveals the fact that he isn't an ally. However, Heike's true intentions and the purpose of this meeting with Hitomi still remain unclear, leaving Sakura in a helpless and confused state. Elsewhere, Agami is still on the streets, tirelessly searching for clues about Hitomi, when he gets a call from Miss Konda. She tells him about an explosion that has happened at a certain location and suspects that Hitomi might be involved. The blast has injured 24 people, and the incident is all over the news. Meanwhile, at the secret place where Sakura and the Prime Minister are being held, Hitomi talks to Sakura. He reassures her that he has no plans to hurt her, and explains that he kidnapped her just to keep her out of his way. Hitomi also reveals that Ogami was transferred to her school under orders from higher authorities to keep an eye on her. He presents this as a way to protect both the codebreakers and serve a bigger purpose. The scene shifts to Miss Konda driving her car and thinking deeply about Hitomi's actions and the kindness she had witnessed from him in the past. She finds it hard to understand how someone so kind could have done what he did, and she is convinced there must be a serious reason behind his behavior. While she drives, she receives an anonymous message on her phone about Hitomi's location, which adds to the urgency of the situation. Meanwhile, Heike confronts Hitomi about the explosion, asking if it was part of a bigger plan. Hitomi explains that just because he has Sakura doesn't mean he fully trusts her. He then questions Heike on how he found him so quickly, implying that Heike might have been monitoring him from the start. To show his sincerity, Heike reveals that he has already dealt with Oji. Meanwhile, Sakura's parents become more worried when she doesn't return home, leading them to contact Ogami. To ease their worries, he assures them that he knows where Sakura is and has a plan to bring her back safely. But the urgency in his actions is clear as he quickly heads to the place where he believes Sakura is. As Ogami races to the location, he receives troubling news from Yuki and Toki about Heike's nasty betrayal. Determined to face this new threat, Miss Konda and Ogami track Heike to where Hitomi is. When they arrive, they find Heike and the situation quickly escalates into a fierce battle. Heike shows incredible strength, easily overpowering both Toki and Ogami. Amidst the intense fight, Ogami finds a way upstairs to where Hitomi, Miss Konda, and Sakura are. But what awaited Ogami was a shocking twist. Hitomi had succeeded in turning Miss Konda against him, and she had been ordered to shoot herself with just one bullet left. In a tense and emotional moment, Hitomi tells Ogami that if he takes one of Miss Konda's bullets and dies, it would spare Miss Konda from a terrible fate. Miss Konda, under Hitomi's control, begins shooting at Ogami as he gets closer, planning to end her life before the bullets run out. As the tension rises, Sakura, who is tied up, can't stand to watch Ogami kill Miss Konda. In a brave and selfless move, she pushes Miss Konda out of the way, saving her from the fatal shot. With the situation at a breaking point, everyone confronts Hitomi, questioning why he's acting so differently. Hitomi points to the stopped clocks on the wall, explaining that every time a codebreaker dies, the clocks stop working. He then reveals that his bombings are meant to create chaos and unrest, forcing people to look for someone to blame for the devastation. He hopes that people will start seeing the codebreakers as their saviors, turning them into the heroes they were meant to be, instead of letting them fade into oblivion. Hitomi explains that his plan is to make the codebreakers champions of justice, allowing them to fight evil openly and become symbols of hope for the people. However, Ogami is not convinced, viewing the plan as flawed and morally wrong. Their disagreement leads to a fierce battle as they struggle with their different visions for the future. The situation takes an unexpected twist when Code Zero Ukihina sides with Hitomi and joins the conflict. Yukihina then reveals a serious truth, informing them that there is a bomb in the building and that he and the Prime Minister have already left. Determined to stop them from harming the Prime Minister, Sakura instinctively decides to follow Hitomi and Yukihina. The scene then goes into a flashback. At 16, Hitomi is chosen by the Eden Supreme Council to become Codebreaker 6. With incredible powers, he takes on many missions, saving lives and defeating numerous villains. His impressive deeds earn him the respect of the Eden Supreme Council, and he quickly rises through their ranks. At 20, Hitomi suffers a heartbreaking loss when Haruya, a fellow codebreaker known as Code 5, dies. This tragedy fills him with anger and a strong desire for change, which leads to his promotion to Code 5, increasing his power and influence. As he continues to move up the ranks, Hitomi becomes Code 3 at the age of 26. During this time, he embarks on a mission that would change his life forever. In a shocking and tragic turn of events, he witnesses the deaths of Code 1 and several other code breakers right in front of him. However, when Hitomi returns to the Eden Council, he is faced with a harsh reality. Instead of showing any regret or recognition for the fallen codebreakers, the council remains cold and indifferent. Their main concern is achieving their goals and quickly replacing the lost codebreakers, putting their mission above everything else. Hitomi then reveals that Code 5 had the rare ability to control water, making her a powerful ally. However, to their shock, they learn that she tragically died because of water. Hitomi looks into whether the agency has any information about her death, as Hitomi strongly believes she wasn't killed by outside enemies. After the death of Code 1, Hitomi realizes he has now become Code 1 and is given the title of Ace. From that moment on, Hitomi makes a serious promise to himself. As Ace, he is resolute in his mission to stop any more codebreakers from dying while he's in charge. He feels it is his duty to protect and look after his fellow codebreakers, fully committed to keeping them safe from harm. In his role as Ace, Hitomi stands as a strong and reliable leader among the codebreakers, taking on the important task of ensuring their safety. He serves as a guiding light within the group, always stressing the importance of safeguarding their comrades and preventing any more heartbreaking losses. During his discussions with Ogami while leading the codebreakers, Hitomi shares the deep convictions that inspired him to join their ranks. He explains that his natural instincts drive him to defend the vulnerable and uphold the nation's laws, which are often overlooked. Hitomi tells Ogami that he will continue to fight for the weak and helpless until his very last breath. He is deeply convinced that the special abilities they possess were given to them to help and protect those who cannot protect themselves. He reassures Ogami, saying that even if he dies, Ogami should not worry about him because he will always live on in his heart. In response, Ogami warns Hitomi that the man who nearly destroyed all the codebreakers once before will return. He urges Hitomi to gather the codebreakers so they can all face this threat together and take the man down. After a fierce battle, Hitomi manages to control the man's powers, forcing him to turn his own ability against himself, leading to the man's death. As Hitomi looks at the gathered codebreakers, he feels a deep sense of resolve. He thinks to himself, he's probably found the team that wouldn't let any more codebreakers die in vain. With time, Hitomi continues to delve deeper into the mysteries surrounding the codebreakers and the tragic end that many of them meet. As he digs into these secrets, he uncovers a disturbing truth. The more often a codebreaker uses their unique ability, the higher the chance that they will lose their sense of self. Over time, this loss builds up until it ultimately leads to their death. A tragic fate that is called the Code End. When Hitomi discovers this grim reality, he is filled with anger, questioning why the Eden Council would keep such crucial information hidden from them. His resolve to protect the lives of the codebreakers, especially the young and vulnerable ones, becomes even stronger. Driven by this newfound determination, Hitomi decides to confront the Prime Minister face to face, demanding answers and justice not only for the children, but also for all the codebreakers. The scene then returns to the present, where Hitomi takes the Prime Minister to a high point, towering over the city, and from this commanding position, he addresses the entire nation through a live broadcast. Hitomi reveals that he has placed numerous bombs throughout the country, putting the lives of about 50,000 citizens, including the Prime Minister, in grave danger. He warns that there is no way to escape this dire situation, casting a shadow of fear across the nation. The mission has reached critical point, and Hitomi has set a tight 1-hour deadline for its success. However, with just 46 minutes left, the first bombs planted by Hitomi explode, causing many casualties among Japan's citizens. The gravity of the situation becomes even clearer. Yuki, Toki, and Ogami, the remaining codebreakers, unite to tackle the formidable task of finding and defusing the remaining bombs scattered across Japan. Yuki uses his special ability to manipulate sound, helping them identify possible bomb locations. It quickly becomes apparent that Hitomi has hidden an overwhelming number of bombs throughout the country, presenting a significant challenge for the codebreakers. With around 1,500 bombs still unaccounted for and time running out, the situation grows more desperate. Meanwhile, Sakura's father, worried sick to find his daughter, has enlisted the help of several technicians to trace her whereabouts. Their efforts lead them to a high tower where Sakura is being held. However, they soon realize that there is also a bomb at Sakura's location, making any rescue attempts extremely dangerous and adding another layer of difficulty to reaching her safely. When Yuki witnesses the heartbreaking aftermath of the bomb explosions, he is determined to take immediate action. He directs Toki and Miss Konda to go together to the Sky Towers, where they can offer help to those in need. Meanwhile, Yuki takes it upon himself to deal with the bombs scattered across the country, driven by a strong resolve to prevent any more innocent lives from being lost. As they arrive at the Sky Tower, both Hitomi and Heike are shocked to discover that Ogami has already made his way into the building. Yuki expresses his intention to stop Ogami, but Hitomi is firm in his decision to face Ogami on his own, eager to test the extent of his power. When Hitomi encounters Ogami, Ogami takes a diplomatic approach, proposing that if Hitomi provides information on how to deactivate the bombs, they can avoid a direct clash. However, Hitomi refuses, determined to see what Ogami is truly capable of. The battle that follows sees Hitomi initially gaining the upper hand. Meanwhile, Sakura, who is bound where Hitomi had kept her, closely watches the intense battle between the two codebreakers. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, she calls for her loyal dog and asks it to free her from the restraints. Meanwhile, Ogami, worn out by the long and intense battle, reaches a point of exhaustion. In this weakened state, he pleads with Hitomi to explain the reason behind his actions, desperately seeking an answer for the chaos and destruction he has caused. Hitomi, also vulnerable, begins to open up about the past that has driven him to this point. He explains that he had once approached the Prime Minister with a simple request to allow the codebreakers to be recognized and accepted by the world, but the Prime Minister's reaction was not what Hitomi had hoped for. Instead of granting his wish, the Prime Minister ordered his agents to kill Hitomi. Faced with this betrayal, Hitomi found himself in a deadly situation and had to fight to survive. Hitomi was shocked when Eden decided to back the Prime Minister's choice. As a result, they expelled him from the codebreakers. He stresses that his main goal was simply to expose the existence of the codebreakers to the world. However, Eden's refusal to agree with this idea has now labeled him as a criminal in their eyes. As Hitomi reflects deeply on his actions and motivations, he comes to understand that changing the Eden organization from within will require pressure from outside forces. His determination is driven not only by a desire to help the codebreakers, but also by a deep concern for children with special abilities. These children, once isolated and separated by the government, are eventually brought into the ranks of the codebreakers. Hitomi fears that if these children stay under government control, they will be turned into emotionless machines, devoid of emotions. Hitomi is driven by a deep sense of purpose. He is determined to make sure they are not turned into emotionless tools for the state. When Hitomi explains his reasons, Sakura disagrees, finding his methods troublesome. But Hitomi insists that his approach is the only possible way to bring about change within the Eden organization and achieve his goals. Meanwhile, as Toki and Miss Konda arrive at the Sky Tower to assist with the situation, they encounter resistance from Heike, who is determined to stop them from interfering. In a surprising turn of events, Oji returns to the scene. It appears that Heike had failed in killing her, and now she's ready to join the action. Upon her return, she immediately confronts Yukihina. Elsewhere, Toki eventually finds the Prime Minister, who is bound and desperately begs Toki to save him before the bomb goes off. But Toki pauses, wondering if the Prime Minister would really abandon him if the roles were reversed. Meanwhile, a fierce battle rages on between Yukihina and Oji. Oji accuses Yukihina of being the reason Hitomi has turned against them, struggling to believe how the once kind Hitomi could change so drastically. Yukihina shares Hitomi's viewpoint, claiming that the Prime Minister's and Eden's orders have given them the advantage, enabling them to go after those who commit wrongdoings against their will. He argues that there are even more dangerous people working for Eden than the Prime Minister, and their mission is to fight against this corrupt influence. The scene shifts to Hitomi's confrontation with Ogami. Hitomi claims that Eden used the codebreakers to carry out assassinations, keeping their own hands clean, suggesting that their motives are the same. He reaches out to Ogami, inviting him to join in creating a new world and fighting by his side, just as they did before. But Ogami stands firm, refusing to join him. He admits he agrees with Hitomi's criticism of Eden's actions, but couldn't support Hitomi's own violent and deadly methods. Ogami sees no difference between Hitomi and the organizations he condemns, and this moral divide pushes them further apart. Hitomi, determined to end the fight, prepares to deliver a fatal blow to Ogami with his lightning power. At the last moment, Sakura courageously steps in front of Ogami, begging Hitomi not to kill him. Meanwhile, the Kizikura Gumi group of technicians, led by Sakura's father, finds one of the bombs. When they arrive, they face two young people who are determined to protect the Kek bomb. These defenders, following Hitomi's orders, use their special abilities to guard the bombs, claiming they do so for the sake of special children. In the tense standoff, Sakura stands fearlessly in front of Ogami, solid in her desire to protect him from Hitomi's deadly attack. Hitomi, however, shows his merciless determination, with no hesitation in harming them both. He unleashes his lethal lightning power at Sakura, but to everyone's shock, it does not kill her. Frustrated by his failure, Hitomi coldly declares he will resort to a different approach, strangling her to death. Hitomi reminds Aogai that he has no plans to harm Sakura until after the Prime Minister and 51,000 citizens are dead, believing their deaths are key to his plan's success. The tension is unbearable as the timer races towards zero. To everyone's surprise, no bombs explode right away. It was Yuki who reached the location of these bombs on time and defused them successfully. And Yuki was told the location by none other than Heike. Then it is revealed that Heike, who once stood with Hitomi, has now turned against him and is on the side of the codebreakers again. My man changes sides more than most politicians would. But Hitomi reveals he has one final trick. He explains that while the bombs might have been set to explode, he has stayed at the sky tower to draw electricity directly from the sky, ensuring the bombs will detonate as planned. Meanwhile, after Toki frees him, the Prime Minister experiences a rare moment of reflection and weakness. He admits to Toki that he might be nothing more than a controlled pawn, suggesting that fear has driven his actions. As Hitomi continues his attempt to draw power from the sky, Yuki, Oji, and Heike struggle to stop him, but their efforts fall short. The situation worsens when Hitomi, blinded by his obsession, grabs Sakura by the neck with one hand, trying to choke her. The tension in the room is intense, and it feels like hope is slipping away. In the midst of this life-or-death battle, Ogami goes Super Saiyan, unleashing a massive blaze, far greater than anything the codebreakers have ever seen. The flames roar and dance, showing a newfound power which just awakened inside our boy. Reflecting on the past, Hitomi remembers when he was training Ogami in combat techniques as a new member of the codebreakers. Back then, he stressed the need to stay alert until their enemies were completely defeated. During that time, they were close friends. In the present, after seeing the fiery blaze Ogami unleashed, Hitomi is shocked that Ogami hasn't succumbed to Codend. However, Ogami, driven by his resolve, boldly challenges Hitomi, declaring his firm intent to defeat him. As Hitomi sends his lightning toward Ogami, Ogami surprisingly absorbs all of Hitomi's powers. The battle intensifies as the two codebreakers clash, leaving the outcome uncertain. Amid the fierce fight, everyone is astonished as Ogami absorbs Hitomi's lightning once again, ultimately overpowering him. Hitomi falls to the ground, defenseless, as his own lightning begins to strike him. The codebreakers quickly realize he is reaching the dreaded code end, a state that signals the end of a codebreaker's life. In his final moments, Hitomi reveals his true intentions. He wanted to stop Eden from exploiting people with special abilities and ensure they could live normal lives like any other citizen. His goal was to give them fulfilling lives and to protect the other codebreakers from being blamed for his actions. As Code 1, he saw it as his duty and privilege to make this sacrifice. As he lies there, life slowly slipping away, Hitomi sincerely asks for their forgiveness for what he's done. With deep regret in his eyes, he calls out to each of them by name, sharing heartfelt thoughts about the qualities he admires in them. He acknowledges the strength of character each codebreaker has, which he has come to respect and appreciate. Even though Hitomi sincerely apologizes and speaks from the heart, Ogami finds it hard to keep his emotions in check. He asks aloud why Hitomi has let them defeat him so easily, struggling to understand how the mentor and friend he once knew has become the enemy he just fought. Tears fill his eyes as the weight of the situation bears down on him. Through his tears, Ogami continues to voice his confusion and frustration, searching for answers to explain the sudden change in Hitomi. He wonders how they could go from being close friends and allies to opponents on opposite sides of a devastating conflict. As Hitomi's life fades away, he speaks with a serious urgency, reminding them that their unity, shown during their battle today, is crucial for their survival. He emphasizes that working together, as they have done, is the only way to keep each member of their codebreaker team safe. In the midst of Hitomi's heartfelt message, the Prime Minister abruptly enters the scene, causing a bad shift in the mood. He confidently announces that he won't allow people with special abilities to fight in public. With firm resolve, he insists that, eventually, people will forget about the bombings, downplaying the seriousness of the situation. But Sakura can't stand by and let this go. She confronts the Prime Minister, challenging his refusal to listen to Hitomi's words. She urges him to think about what Hitomi was trying to express. The Prime Minister's reply reveals his disgust for codebreakers and his regret over a decision he once made. He regrets that if he had known Hitomi would turn into a terrorist, he never would have recruited him. In one last act of defiance, Hitomi gathers his remaining strength. Rising to his feet, he gets ready to strike the Prime Minister with a bolt of lightning. Before he can act, the other codebreakers intervene. They finally grasp the true meaning of Hitomi's message. With this new understanding and determination, they urge him to rest, assuring him that they will take charge of the situation and fulfill the change he envisioned. Hitomi's last words reflect his acceptance of the growth and transformation that the codebreakers have undergone. He realizes they needed to evolve on their own, even if he didn't see it at first. As he passes away, he leaves behind a legacy that will forever guide the codebreakers on their journey toward redemption and justice. Who's cutting onions? In the next scene, Heike and the Prime Minister have a candid conversation in the Prime Minister's car. The Prime Minister reveals that he previously plotted to put Ogami against Hitomi as a way to test Ogami's true potential. Meanwhile, Sakura heads to school in the morning, expecting to see Ogami at their usual spot, but he is noticeably absent. Suddenly, Yuki shows up in his cat form and tells Sakura that Ogami has gone. He promises to help her if she needs anything and then leaves. Then Oji appears all of a sudden and offers Sakura a ride to school. On the way, Oji tells her all codebreakers have different jobs assigned to them. She also tells Sakura that Ogami is already on the way to his next burning assignment as a codebreaker. Sakura then thanks Oji for the ride, and they go their separate ways. Oji and Toki also leave, so Sakura is alone. She thinks about how Ogami is gone and knows she might not see him for a while. But she remembers all the amazing things he and the other codebreakers did for the world. She understands that they did a lot without saying anything, and that they saved her life. She thinks to herself that they will always be in her heart and mind. The codebreakers do so much for the world, even though the world doesn't even know they are heroes.